Hi, my name is Dr. Pecoraro. I'm a chiropractor in Westfield, New Jersey. And today I wanted to speak to you about what I'm going to call a conversion experience that I had approximately 20 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that. And looking back on it, I could see a number of things led up to it, but I'm going to basically tell you about the actual time it happened. And when I say a conversion experience, this was a religious conversion experience. That's what I'm going to call it. Basically, before this experience, I was, like everybody else probably, interested in wine, women, and song. I maybe prayed 5 minutes every month or two. Went to church most Sundays, but not all Sundays. And that was about it. I went from immediately afterwards, to praying about 3 to 5 hours a day on my knees and going to church every single day. 20 years later, I'm probably praying maybe 2 hours a day, still going to mass, to church most days. Now, I don't tell you this because I'm trying to make myself out to be a big shot. I'm just telling you this to show you that what a big difference it made. At first, I thought that the conversion experience might be a psychological thing, but I discounted that because there were a number of things about my religion, I'm a Catholic, that I didn't really understand. That after the conversion experience, which was only a few seconds, took only a few seconds, but afterwards I completely understood them. So anyway, I'm going to tell you what happened. My wife used to belong to this prayer group at our church, and she would go there once a week, and they would pray and periodically hand out little flyers on this, that, and the other thing. And I used to like to read them because I was kind of interested in what was going on. My wife's going to this thing. So she brought home this one time, and I read it, and it was called, it was from the Medjugorje newsletter. Medjugorje is a town in Yugoslavia where supposedly the Blessed Mother, Mary, Jesus' mother, was supposed to be appearing to certain people. Anyway, this was in the Medjugorje newsletter, which told about things there. And it was about the 3 Days of Darkness by a Catholic Franciscan brother named Brother David Lopez. These guys wear those gray robes with I think they have a hat on the back. Anyway, this Brother David Lopez was wrote this thing, and I was reading about it. It's a different video where I tell you about the three days of darkness. But anyway, as I was reading this sheet, it's only an 8.5 by 11 sheet, 2 sides. What can that really do to change a person's life? You'd think not much, but I read this thing, and within seconds to minutes, my entire life changed. I was reading it, and then I didn't know what was happening. But my wife could see something was going on, because as I was reading it, she was standing on the other side of the room, and she was looking at me, and she says, "What's the matter?" I couldn't even talk. And she says, "What's the matter? You look like you're going to cry or something." Which I didn't cry, but I was very absorbed in what was going on. And looking back on it, after 20 years and studying a lot of things about it, I believe that what happened was the Holy Spirit manifested itself in me and let me see my soul the way God sees it. And it literally scared the hell out of me. I saw that I had been kidding myself my entire life, thinking that things that were bad, weren't that bad. As I said to a friend of mine afterwards, things that I now think of as sins, I used to think of as nice thoughts. And I realized that I was going to have to want what God wanted all the time if I expected to go to heaven. And I was going to have to change my life drastically. So part of the thing that I read said that you had to do a novena, which was, the novena is 9 days of prayer. And it said this novena was going to the Catholic Mass 9 days, which for me, I was a Catholic, so that wasn't that big a deal. But they had to be 9 days in a row, and I wasn't used to going, just some Sundays. This is 9 days in a row. And saying the Rosary, which is a Catholic prayer, 15 decades of the Rosary, which is all there were at the time, each of those 9 days. And that if you did it for 9 days, then you would understand everything in the that you read. After about 3 days, I felt like I understood everything, but I kept on doing it anyway, since I said that I made a promise to God that I would. Well, not really a promise. I just decided that I would, and I told God that. And then after the 9 days was over, I said, well, if I can do this for 9 days, I guess I could do it for the rest of my life. So I just kept on trying to do it over and over again. And over the years, I wouldn't say that I've slacked off, but I've come to a different kind of realization about it. But as I said earlier, I still do pray about 2 hours a day, 2.5 hours a day. Go to Mass most days. But sometimes I won't because of my duty interferes with it. But anyway, getting back to the conversion experience. So I changed my life around completely based on what happened at that time. As you can see, I'm kind of a loss for words right now, even speaking about it, because it made such an impact on me. But I pray that this will happen to you someday, because it made a big difference in my life. It brought me from being tense about almost everything to, at this point in my life, hopefully I have joy even in the midst of suffering. Now that sounds ridiculous to most people, but if you're deep into your religion, you might understand what I'm saying a little bit. And I pray that this kind of thing will happen to you. As a side note, I want to tell you that after I had this conversion experience, I read this book, and I gave it to one of my neighbors, or one of my friends, and she read it, and she had the same thing basically happen to her, and she gave it to her neighbors, basically the same thing happened to them. She gave it to another friend of hers, basically the same thing happened to him. And it wasn't the book, but it was the same experience from God, with the book as the vehicle. If you're interested in the book, I'm going to make another video on it, but it's called The Final Hour, and it's by a man named Michael Brown. And what I read is called The 3 Days of Darkness, and it was in the Medjugorje newsletter in September 11th, interesting enough, 1992. And, but as I said, there is a paperback book on the 3 Days of Darkness, which has predictions from many of the saints over the years about it. So I hope this information will be helpful to you. I hope you'll have a conversion experience just by listening to this video. I don't know if you will or not. And I hope it at least piqued your interest about it. And I also hope you don't think that I'm crazy, because I can see how, if you're not too interested, you could think that. But because I would have thought the same kind of thing before my conversion experience. So I'm going to leave it on that note, and God bless you.